you need the truth and the love, and everything comes between those two things. I think that one verse says, I wait for the day that my followers will worship in spirit and truth. But worship isn't just singing and praising, but it's how you live your life out through God. And the third thing I like is trust. So, have you heard of the term trust in the term of like bridges?
Sort of, but explain it.
What type of what type of shape comes to mind when you think of a trust?
A triangle.
And a triangle is the strongest shape structurally
In nature, right?
Yeah, it's
just in everything. Oh, you're right.
I think in everything. It's the strongest shape. And houses, they're made of a lot of trust. And the trust is what keeps up the house. So if you speak in truth and love, but you have no trust, you have no bond with someone else, how do you expect to go into those conversations and remain peaceful, remain calm, and friendly? So you have to have a build-up of trust so the house, the love, stays intact. And the last thing is like intentions. You just have to say things. You can say something that is truthful and loving and trust and have a lot of trust with someone. But if you don't do it for the right intentions, then it all goes to waste. Like if I tell you that you're beautiful, and like that could be truthful, that's loving, and we can have a lot of trust between each other. But if I'm only saying that to steal you away from like your spouse, then that all goes to waste. And that kind of defeats the truth.
Well, basically, when you're speaking, I'm sitting here and it's like, oh, it sounds like an easy thing to do. But in reality, a lot of us, when we come into conflict and things, we actually don't do this a lot. And so just some major things to point out is what is not good foundation, what is not good is, compromising on truth. Especially like, you're like, oh, I want to have truth in this. But then sometimes when you just want the conflict to end, you're like, no, I didn't really say that. Or, no, I didn't really mean that when I said this. Like, whatever might spark a conflict. And in reality, you might be like, okay, yeah, I'm just like settling the glass. Or like, oh, no, I never really did this. Like, can we just be fine? Or, all these things. Like, that isn't fully truthful. And it's not fully loving if you're like,
just sweeping things under the rug.
Yeah, and you're trying to pleasing, and I don't want to get on a touchy subject, and so I'm trying really hard to choose I'm trying really hard to choose my words wisely, but what I think of it is like conforming. Yeah, I guess I would call it conforming, where it's like if somebody wants you so badly, like let's say it's an argument between going left or going right, and somebody, and in your heart to go right is the right path. But just because you're afraid of the conflict, just because you want the conflict to end, you go, okay, fine, let's go left. But left can lead to destruction and damage and all these things. Is like, and so you're arguing and it's like, we gotta go right, it's the way to go. Like sometimes there's things where you can't compromise on because it's like having a crack in the foundation, or it's like having a loose truss in the house, or it's like you're not thinking of how damaging that can be because you're so blinded by the moment of just wanting to resolve the conflict or avoid conflict. So many times we avoid conflict because we know that it'll happen, or we do things to, make sure that we don't get caught. We hide things. We sweep it under the rug. We don't say the full truth. We just kind of work our way around it. But the truth is that you're building on you're building on some sand. You're building on something that isn't fully true and isn't fully sustainable for the relationship you have with the person you are conflicting with.
But I want to go left. You want to go right. What happened? Like, what? How do you handle that?
That's a real generalized thing, because like, if we were literally in a car and you were like, Isaac, I want to go to Burger King, and I was like, I want to go to McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
It comes to this point where it's like, how important is it to you that you, like, is this something, and I think this is something we should always be asking ourselves in every conflict, is like, is this something that I, like, need to stand on? Is this oh, they explain it like this. There's close-handed arguments and there's open-handed arguments. Close-handed arguments are things that you just cannot you cannot give up. Like, if I were to stand on something, it would be that Jesus Christ, like, died.
Stand on business.
Yeah, if I'm going to stand on some business, it's going to be that Jesus Christ died, and 3 days later, he came back to life for the sins of the world to redeem us so that we can get closer with him. If somebody's like, Isaac, you have to renounce that. And you have to say you do not believe in Jesus, and you have to say you did not die and all this stuff, or else, whatever, I can't be friends with you, or you lose your job, or you're going to prison, or we're going to kill you, all this stuff. That's one of those things where I'm like, no. Mm-hmm. But if it were the exact same person, and they're like, you have to go to McDonald's, and I want to go to Burger King, I'll be like, all right, bro, whatever. Because that's an open-handed argument.